Greetings everybody, Jirachi TV, your favorite Pokehistorian at your service. Today I'll be talking about 5 crazy Pokemon theories that actually might be true. Before I begin, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to do so. And while you're at it, if you could be so kind as to tap the notification bell, it would really help me bring you the best Pokemon content possible. Without further ado, let's hop right into the video. The 5th theory on the list is the Great Pokemon War. In case you haven't heard about it, the Great Pokemon War, otherwise known as the Kanto War, apparently occurred years prior to the events transpiring in Pokemon Red and Blue. The reasons for the war are currently unknown still, but what is known is that Lieutenant Surge, the gym leader of Vermilion City, was most likely a participant in this war. This information is known because when you first encounter Lieutenant Surge, he begins discussing how an electric-type Pokemon saved his life during the war, but doesn't go any further into what the war really was. The Lieutenant is also depicted as a stern figure, which helps convey the idea that he is a military man. This theory also explains why Red's father never appears throughout the game, and also why Blue is apparently an orphan. Something else to note is that if you were paying close attention throughout the games Red and Blue, then something you may have noticed is that there are little to no middle-aged men and women. Instead, everybody you run into will either be young, like Bug Trainer Jimmy, or is going to be elderly, meaning this war was extremely casualty heavy, ultimately resulting in an age gap between the generations. Quick note before I end off number 5 on the list, if any Pokemon theory piques your interest, then feel free to conduct further research yourself, because there's always new evidence surfacing, and who knows, I might have missed something. Now, with that being said, I'm going to conclude number 5. Number 4 is a bit of a shorter theory, but I still felt like it deserved a spot on the list at number 4, because it's actually a quite well-known theory if you've been looking into this stuff for quite a while. So, let's hop right into it. Number 4 is a theory that Blue's Raticate actually died. This was a bit of a shocker for me when I first read it because I'm not the most observant person and I didn't even realize that Blue's Raticate mysteriously vanished after a certain point in the game. As many weird Pokemon theories always are, this theory is centralized around Lavender Town because this is the first battle that Blue doesn't have Raticate on his team. This is pretty suspicious to me because it is in the Pokemon graveyard that Blue's Raticate first goes missing. While Blue could have simply switched his Raticate out for another Pokemon, this theory sounds better to me, obviously not because a Pokemon died, but instead because it adds some personality to the original storyline, as well as a very real possibility that this was too sinister for the developers to include, so instead, they might have hinted at it. The speculation behind this theory is that Raticate was severely injured during a battle on the cruise ship, but was not taken to the Pokemon Center on time, ultimately resulting in Raticate's unfortunate demise. This theory continues on to say that the reason that Blue was in the Pokemon Tower in the first place was to mourn his dead Raticate, and thought of no better way to pay tribute to his Raticate than to engage in a battle with Red. That concludes number 4 on the list, so without wasting any more time, let's move on to number 3. Alright, let's begin with number 3, which, similar to the last theory, is kinda dark. What do I mean about that? Well, this theory pertains to what happens after death in the Pokemon world. So, to begin, I just want to point out that there are several ghost-type Pokemon, but there's never actually been an explanation to what happens post-mortem. What we do know is that a Pokemon can actually in fact die, but it's currently unknown what their expected lifespan really is. One popular theory is that ghost Pokemon are actually used to regulate the world around them. Something interesting that I believe is worth talking about is Yamask. Yamask is a Gen 5 Pokemon whose Pokédex entry claims that not only was it originally human, but that it actually also remembers its past human life. Another thing to note in the Yamask entry is that the mask it carries is of its original human weep, and that sometimes it will look at its mask and cry. Wow, well, that's all I'm going to say about this Dex entry. As if Yamask wasn't creepy enough, there's actually a Pokemon that acts as a Grim Reaper for children. Yeah. This Pokemon is the adorable Duskull, a Generation 3 Pokemon that's described as enjoying children crying, and in the old Pokemon Wives' Tales, it's even rumored to take bad children away. As if these Pokemon were not enough, Lampert, Another Gen 5 Pokemon will steal your spirit away and waits around in hospitals waiting for people to pass. That's going to wrap up number 3, and I just want to say, I'm glad to be done with it because it kind of creeps me out. Let's move on to number 2. The next theory is actually odd, and that's being said on a list of crazy Pokemon theories. The theory is that the puppet leader of Team Plasma, N, is actually a Zoroark. In case you haven't played through Generation 5 games, then I'll be going on a quick summary of who N is, so that everybody has context behind this theory. N, or otherwise known as Natural Harmonia Gropius, is the apparent leader of Team Plasma during the beginning of Black and White, but it's later revealed that N, unknown to him, was being manipulated from the shadows by the true leader, Ghetsis. Ghetsis is the true antagonist of the story, whose original goal was to liberate Pokemon of their trainers. In fact, one of the reasons that people love the Unova region is because of all the lore and questions that are brought forth throughout the games. One of these questions is Team Plasma's apparent goal throughout the story, which is to liberate Pokemon from their trainers, which brings up the question whether it's really ethical to capture Pokemon. Unfortunately, this was not the actual goal of Ghetsis, who actually just wanted to liberate in order to rule over existence. So, to summarize this quickly, Ghetsis manipulated N from the shadows in order to attempt to rule over the Unova region. Now, onto the theory. The theory is that N is actually a Zoroark, and here are the facts. In one part of Black 2 and White 2, you follow a Zoroark into a set of ruins and find N there, with the Zoroark missing. Also, if you look closely at the hair, it's actually shaped very similarly, as well as N was raised among Pokemon and can actually understand them, and speaks unnaturally fast and awkwardly throughout the games. Something else that Zoroarks are known for are to appear in the form of humans in the Black and White games, and can even copy speech patterns of the person that they are pretending to be. This would actually make a lot more sense for a Pokemon to want to separate the world, seeing as how they are often abused and used as a tool for trainers to obtain power. This is it for the N theory, so I'm going to move on to the number 1 theory on the list. Number 1 is the ever so popular theory of Missing No. Missing No, an abbreviation for missing number, is an unofficial Pokemon species found in Pokemon Red and Blue as well as Yellow versions. Due to the coding of some in-game events, players can encounter Missing No by glitching the game. One of the effects of encountering Missing No is that the number of slots in the 6th entry of the player's inventory gets increased to 128 slots. Since having more inventory slots is obviously advantageous when playing through a game, funnily enough, this led to Missing No glitches being covered in strategy guides, even though Nintendo warned that it might corrupt a player's game. A player can encounter Missing No in Pokemon Red and Blue by following a series of steps. First, the player watches an in-game tutorial for Pokemon capture. Second, the player uses a Pokemon with the Fly move to instantly travel to the game's Cinnabar Island location. Finally, the player uses a Pokemon with the move Surf to travel up and down the eastern shore of the island until a Missing No appears. These events manipulate the game's random encounter system to generate a Pokemon with an invalid identifier. A theory involving Missing No is that MAROWAK was originally supposed to evolve into Kangaskhan, but instead, the programmers decided to make a last-minute decision to make Kangaskhan its own Pokemon that wouldn't evolve. So instead of changing the code, they moved the information to a dex number that didn't exist. In short, creating Missing No. This glitch became so popular that some players actually ended up trying to sell information about how to encounter Missing No for as much money as $200. Well, that'll wrap up the number 1 Pokemon theory on the list. So with that being said, I'm going to end the list there. Before you leave, I just want to offer a slight disclaimer, which is that although some of these theories sound like they have some merit, that's all they are, is theories. So make sure that you take each with a grain of salt. With that out of the way, I'm going to end the video there. So, with little more to be said, I wish you all the best.